you start to mechanically and chemically digest food. You start with carbohydrate digestion and fat digestion. And over here you have the parotid gland. And on your list, what enzymes and secretions are produced from the parotid gland? What does it say? Come on. That's why you remember it. Yes, I asked you to name the gland and name the secretion. Parotid gland is the first one. What does it produce? Salivary?
Amylase.
Amylase. Amylase is a carbohydrate digesting enzyme. Parotid meaning ear. So this ear. All right. The cutaway of the mandible over here, you can see the submandibular gland. What does the submandibular gland secrete, guys?
You heard me?
And here we have the sublingual beneath the tongue. What is the digestive juices from the sublingual gland? Saliva. And the tongue produces lipase. Lipase is a fat digesting enzyme. Parotid gland, submandibular gland, sublingual gland, tongue. Food travels down the esophagus, a muscular tube, from the pharynx all the way down into the stomach. And as it makes its way down the esophagus into the stomach, it passes through a sphincter muscle right here, which is called the lower esophageal sphincter. See it's circular? You can see the cutaway. This is the esophagus, lower esophageal sphincter, or cardiac sphincter. And then you enter into the, excuse me, wrong end, guys. Here's the esophagus. Food comes down through the lower esophageal sphincter and enters into a region of the stomach called the cardia. This is the cardia. This is the fundus. The fundus rises above the sphincter, above the stick. That's the fundus. This is the fundus right here. And then you have your body. So the three regions of the stomach include cardia, fundus, and the body. Now from here back, this is all pylorus. It includes pyloric antrum. It gets narrowed to become the pyloric canal and terminates as the pyloric sphincter. Pylorus, this whole region, pyloric antrum, pyloric canal, pyloric sphincter. Have you ever heard of the organism Helicobacter pylori or H. pylori? This is where it leads to ulcerations of the stomach. So they would do a biopsy, they would do esophageal retrograde cholangiopancreatography, and they would take a section of the stomach, lining, mucosa, and send it down to the laboratory to see if they can identify Helicobacter pylori. In the small bowel, then you would have Campylobacter jejuni, which leads to obviously diarrhea, Shigella salmonella infections. But in any case, just to repeat, esophagus, lower esophageal sphincter, cardia, fundus, body, and all of this is pylorus, followed by the pyloric sphincter, which leads to the duodenum, which is the first portion of the small bowel. On the outside, you have the serosa. And underneath the serosa, you have three layers of muscle, of which you can see the longitudinal, coming down, following with the esophagus, longitudinal. You have the circular, and then you have the oblique. Three layers in the stomach. The small bowel only has two layers, longitudinal and circular, but the stomach has longitudinal, circular, and oblique. Now this is the serosa, the outer layer of the organ. Inside here you have the mucosa. This is rugae. These folds in here are called rugae. Think of this as equivalent to this thickness of the stomach wall. Serosa on the outside, mucosa on the inside. So let's superimpose this model here as if it was the small intestine, which has two layers of muscle. But it has a serosa, which is the outer layer. It has a muscularis, in this case includes the longitudinal and circular. It has the submucosal layer, the mucosal layer, and these are the columnar epithelium in pink. Columnar epithelium, this is where final digestion and absorption takes place. In blue, you have the goblet cells, which are mucus-secreting cells. Holding the epithelium in place is the lamina propria, or propria, which is in gray here. Holds the epithelium in position. These depressions here are called the intestinal pits. Intestinal pits, and deep to the intestinal pit is the intestinal crypt right here. These are where the glands are. Crypt, pit. Now deep down here is a cell that's colored red, what's left of it. That's called a penneth cell and produces defensins, antimicrobial activity. Beneath the mucosal layer is a submucosal layer. This is a lymph follicle or Peyer's patch. And this is a Brunner's gland in blue. So secretions leave the Brunner's gland, travel up through the gastric or intestinal crypt to the intestinal pit to the surface of the lining of the intestine. Each of these are villi, and inside them is a arterial side, a venular side of a vessel, and this is an anastomosis where the artery meets the vein. Inside you have a green duct here. This is called a lacteal. This is how fats are absorbed. Glucose amino acids are small organic nutrients absorbed by the capillaries, where fats, triglycerides, very large, 3 fatty acids linked together with a glycerol backbone are absorbed into the lymphatic system. Fats travel through the lymphatic system and make their way into the vascular system by the subclavian veins. 4 regions: serosa, muscularis, submucosa, mucosa. Structures: pink, columnar epithelium; blue, goblet cells; gastric or intestinal pit. If this was the stomach, it would be the gastric pit. Since it's the intestine, it's the intestinal pit. This is the intestinal crypt. This is a penneth cell. Lymph follicle, Brunner's gland, circular muscle, longitudinal muscle, serosa. All right, so